Dopamine swipe, dopamine swipe. Followers, likes, double tap. Now they control your life, control your life.
What is going on, beautiful people? Welcome back to the 817 Podcast, where we talk about the lovely city of Fort Worth, Texas, being into politics, business, culture, news. If it impacts you as a Fort Worthian, we discuss it here on the 817 Podcast. On a regular routine, we give you 3 short stories, 1 big story, and wins and losses. However, this week we are out of town, so we give you the privilege of sitting down with the team at the Doc Bookshop, one of the few black-owned bookstores in the country, and how it's right here in Fort Worth, and how their story played an impact, influencing and discussing Juneteenth, and now they're involved with the National Juneteenth Museum. They have celebrity guests in their community events center at the bookshop. If you haven't been, we highly recommend you attend. And what is your take on our conversation we just had?
Well, they also have a great event coming up in September, so this is perfectly timely for you to learn about all the things Doc Bookshop, because they're going to do this fabulous festival, Trinity River Festival of Books in Trinity Park, right off of West 7th Street at the pavilion there, pavilion number 1. And they're going to have like 60 authors there. And they're going to have panels discussing a variety of genres. And it just sounds really, I'm super pumped up and excited about it. I'm putting it on my calendar immediately.
Yeah. And so this is Donna and Danya here with the 817 Podcast, sharing their story and their journey as the Doc Bookshop.
Well, first, thank you so much for having us here. We are so excited to be just on the 817 Podcast. This is awesome opportunity. Our Fort Worth story, well, I can give you the individual one and the Doc Bookshop one. So and it kind of ties in together. So being in Fort Worth, we actually are Midwest, relocated to the Dallas-Fort Worth area 30 years ago. So we're pretty much Fort Worth now, but and we've, I actually have experience in the church world. I work at my church, and we love books. Books been in our family. Danya, I'm gonna let Danya give you the awesome history of books in our family. But one day during the recession of 2008, we were wandering around the neighborhood, and we wanted a bookstore. Didn't see one, and then my sister had this wonderful idea of opening up a bookstore. And I actually co-signed on that. I said, you know what? That's a great idea. We love books. A lot of our favorite bookstore had closed by then. We were going to Black Bookworm in Fort Worth. They closed, and Black Images in Dallas had closed, and it was a tough time. And Amazon was coming on, so it was a lot of challenges. But here we are, still wanting a brick and mortar bookstore in the neighborhood, and so that's what we did, and we stuck to it. It's been a labor of love, but we're still here.
Awesome. And how many years have you guys been open?
We've been doing this for 16 years.
Some years longer than others.
Yes. I wouldn't change it though. We have met so many wonderful people over the years, and so many experiences, seen a lot. So. It's been an interesting journey.
Yeah.
It's been a very interesting journey. But Diane, why don't you share about our history with the books?
To go a little bit deeper, I think it was ordained that we do this bookstore, considering if I go back a little bit, if I could. A lot of people are right now doing their story, their history, their journey.
Their genealogy. And we did our genealogy and found out that, and it's a huge article, and it talks about Ed and Ophelia Craddock. Ed and Ophelia Craddock was servants in the governor's mansion in Jefferson City, Missouri, where the governor's mansion was. And right below the library was their headquarters. So even though they could not read or write because of the census did that. They looked for those enslaved Africans during the Reconstruction period. In the census, could they read or write? And then you had this family living right below the library, in charge of cleaning this whole place.
And I understand because of the money that they've donated into the community and how they talked about the Craddock family in that community, that they were avid wanting people to be able to read and write. That was something that they couldn't do, but they wanted for their generation, because even though they couldn't read and write, they were developing an income and they were developing a name for being this positive family in the Missouri area. Even though that was a Confederacy. Oh my God, it was so, oh my God, Jesus. It was just, they were just surrounded by the Confederacy. And it's just amazing articles. There's drawings of Ed and Ophelia Craddock. I mean, something that a lot of families can't only imagine, but we have it right there, and it talks about how they took care of this mansion, how they took care of this library, and to have some 11 generations later, their granddaughters having a bookstore in a Fort Worth. And in this article, and the crazy thing about this article, the next thing, and it says, and this was in 1870, it says, going to Texas. That was the next article. Like, it blew my mind. Like, you can pull it up. If you pull up Ed and Ophelia Craddock, this article comes up, and it has a picture of Ed Craddock, which looks just like my grandmother. So it's not something that was AI and something. It was real. It was real. And then then Ophelia looks just like one of my cousins. So this was something that I think is deeper, and I think this is how the Doc Bookshop, going back to Donna, was able to sustain the business, because people was like, you know, you're opening a bookstore in the face of Amazon, Nook,
Kindle.
ebooks, and Kindle,
And a recession.
And a recession. They're like, what are you guys doing? But you know, we had to. You know, it was a higher power that we believe at this particular time, because we understand this is a labor of love, and to just have, you know, not only where we're in this space of contemporary times, but having the voices of our ancestors come through as we continue to try to deliver the best work in our community and beyond.
Yeah.
So in short, I guess the saying, I am my ancestors' wildest dream, that will be us.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. I'm so intrigued to know, like, were you guys aware of this the whole time, or did this something that come later?
No, we kind of learned of this. I mean, seriously, when you say things happen for a reason, all that, we just learned really about this. And now you're kind of like connecting the dots, and you're like, oh, this is why that happened. Oh, this is why that happened. So yeah, it's really interesting.
But we have family that's always been into genealogy, but the discoveries are being made. You know, articles are being put online and what have you. So these discoveries are being made, and now we're finding a connection. Like, you know, my aunts and uncles that have transitioned now, that have put in so much research, and we're just trying to carry it forward. This article that came out, it was like amazing. It was just like an amazing find of the Marmaduke family, our connection with everybody knows about the Marmadukes, you know, that whole cartoon thing. But that was a real pioneer family that I shouldn't say we work with, but for lack of a better word. I'm going to say that, but, you know, during slavery, that Marmaduke family, they did have somewhat about 230-some enslaved Africans. So just coming of age and understanding that information is just present and relevant to us, it's just been an amazing journey.
Were you always in tune with the history of is that something your parents instilled in you? How?
History and culture is really our premise.
Yeah.
You know, our family, especially my father, he was definitely into history and culture. And it's something that we do at the bookstore. I mean, it's really one of our core values. You know, we value history, we celebrate culture. You know, we want to teach that to others. We want to make sure people are aware of history and that it doesn't be forgotten or whitewashed or erased. That's, you know, we see that happening, but we will, you know, continue to be voices, you know, for those in the past and also those in the future, because it's all connecting. So. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like that history really motivated you, even the parts that you knew before you did the bookstore. And then when you found out more about that history, it just totally motivated you. So the importance of knowing where we come from.
It's so important.
It is. I mean,
it
and
really
it
is.
Can motivate young people to take on things that they maybe didn't think that they could take on.
Oh,
so I think speaking to that lack of teaching the history and how negatively impactful that is on folks just not knowing their history. Because you two are a perfect example of people who knew some of your history and learned more of your history, and how that motivated you to do something that is so community focused and benefiting and giving back to the community.
Yes, yes. It's
and
important.
understanding too, because we was like, now, because I was in real estate, like I'm real estate, mortgage-backed securities, mortgage banking. That was me. And so, and she, just to give more of our backstory is, I was selling books through real estate, and I won't even give you some of the titles because they're kind of, it is what it is. I'll just put it out there. I was selling, real estate, go to trade shows, and at that time, Trump, he had a lot of books out that were great books. And so at my real estate trade shows, you could see I would have a collection of his book. But that was in a time period that was real estate.
Had no idea. Had no idea
what he was doing at that time.
Yeah. Art of the Deal is a whole different time.
Right. But what's fascinating is a lot of people don't know that for his CDs that he was putting out there, it was an Oakley group, and that was an African-American male real estate group that was putting out his writing and his CDs and his stories. He was backed by an African-American male group, the Oakley group. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day.
Right.
So, but that's just...
And I was doing a little book selling for Cokesbury Bookstore. They do faith and inspiration type books. And my background is church and service, so that's what I was doing. So we didn't know, that we were going to actually do a bookstore, but we always been into books, selling books, doing cultural events. So it kind of all came together with the Doc Bookshop. It really did.
So let me make sure, before I can keep the listeners on the journey here. So you guys have been in Fort Worth for how long?
30 years.
30 years. And the bookstore has been open for 16
years.
Gotcha. So there's a lot of new people moving to Fort Worth, and 60% of Fort Worthians actually live on the outer loop of Fort Worth. If someone sat down and said, hey, what's the story or history of Fort Worth from your lens, like what would you guys share or discuss?
Ooh, you want me to jump into that?
Yeah.
The history of Fort Worth?
Where the West began, right? A lot of people don't know that Fort Worth is actually celebrating 175 years. This is not the incorporation year, but this is the year when they were set up as a frontier post to protect pioneer families in the area. So that was what? I can't remember the dates, but it's 175 years. So we're in.
I'm going to interrupt because I want y'all to know she's getting excited about this because we just had 817 Day.
Yes.
Yeah, yesterday. I tried to buy a T-shirt at Morgan Mercantile, and they sold out by 11 a.m.
Right.
I was like, we're the 817 podcast. We need that.
So it was a big Fort Worth thing. So and we had something at the bookstore. So she was really
very informed
about that.
Oh, yeah, 817 Day, and we're on 817 podcast today. I mean, this has just been an amazing...
wow.
Yeah, this has just been the perfect weekend for us, and just really elevating Fort Worth, and then going into a movement of we're dealing with reading of the West. We sit on those boards for the Mountain and Plains Independent Booksellers Association. We sit on the reading of the West. And so we are very much into geographical representation, not only African-American representation, but geographical. We have some of the most perfect stories, most perfect pioneers that now Hollywood is starting to discover how important that landscape of pioneering the America to the West.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of movies out now. Mm-hmm.
I would say you're in the perfect place. To me, the weather is perfect.
Somebody, a lot.
But imagine going through winter storms. But
have you guys always lived on the east side do you live near the bookshop, or or did you work? What part of the Fort Worth?
We definitely live near the books. We're right down the street actually.
Gotcha, and that's kind of. Since you arrived at Fort Worth, you gotcha? So tell me
on the east side.
Yeah, so tell me the, if someone said, "Hey, what's the history of kind of Fort Worth from your area? What have you seen change, develop? I mean, churches have always been really big too, not just in serving and helping people, but then also the political world of Fort Worth. So how has it been?
I would say from a real estate standpoint, when I moved over there. In the east side, there was a lot of undeveloped land And since then, I was always into, finding new homeowners, place where the value is going to appreciate, and understanding what was going on in Arlington and the futuristic look of this area, not knowing that they were going to actually put in the stadium, but it is that whole stadium was not there when we moved here, right? And so just that intuition of how real estate moves and how undeveloped land is developed and how big businesses, big box companies move in after you get the real estate and the homeowners in the area. And then a lot of times they would come, even though Walmart had came ahead of that time, but you're starting to see more and more big box business coming into that corridor. So we see a lot of mass development. So I'm going through the community now and say, this new land is, I got to get brochures together because there's so many homes, the land that was undeveloped is getting developed. And so we have to be able to present to these new homeowners, the dock is right here. It's for you. If you want to understand a bookstore or a community, start with your bookstore. And this was during the pandemic. Yeah. I'm a pivot real quick. During the pandemic, that's the same thing that Martha Stewart said when the incident with George Floyd. She said, if you want to better understand what a community is and don't know how to tap into that community, start with the local bookstore. I mean, she said it. And it was like a no-brainer. We was in a pandemic. Everybody had books as their backdrops and, wanted to look really good.
Shelves.
And I'm telling you, honestly, we were having a very difficult time, really shuttering as a store. I mean, because the pandemic was so hard. It was, we didn't know how we were going to make it. But when that happened, with the murder of George Floyd and with Martha Stewart comments and a lot of celebrities, Oprah Winfrey, a lot of people encouraging people to support local bookstores and businesses, that actually saved us. Really,
Had you been doing a lot of?
But I just want to answer your question, though. When we first started 15 years ago, history and culture in Fort Worth, I'm going to just say African-American history and culture. There wasn't a lot of it going on. It just wasn't. And so we kind of built a community that kind of celebrate African culture and traditions, and so and we want to continue that, and more you see more and more, like for example Juneteenth. We've been celebrating Juneteenth for since we opened, but now to see everyone celebrating Juneteenth is a beautiful thing. You know what I'm saying? It's so to answer your question, I think it's growing. The appreciation of, well, I don't know. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Because
It's growing and it's being tamped down a little bit.
So
that question.
That's what I'm saying. It's double-edged. I mean, yes, we're celebrating Juneteenth, but now they're trying to ban the books. It's just always something.
And your question was loaded. Like we went from.
He's trying to make it spicy.
We went from, what was the landscape? What was Fort Worth? What is the history behind East Fort Worth, and how it morphed into? Because there's so much to that. Because we can go into Hanley, the major, in the Confederate. So a lot of that area was, I'm wrapping it around. A lot of that area was under Confederate control, if we go historically and now today. So, in terms of the plantation lights of East Fort Worth, back to your question, is, it was Confederate control, that area. And to see now is predominantly African Americans that are living there, that are building, that are growing. That area is a testament to things that are happening from the east side to the south side to the west side. Just taking control of your area.
Yeah, and I think the reason why I asked that question was, I moved here in 2017, but to see like the historic South Side, I feel like there's so much timeline and history that gets talked about it. But I feel like the East Side, I don't hear such of the cohesion of the story of the East Side as well as I feel like I do of the historic South Side. Yeah. And
even
still,
with the development, we won't go into that, but
yeah.
Until it comes to when we bring the high profile, those are coming to the east side, the high profile authors. But at the end of the day, the whole city is connected, and to bring a lens to our area. It is strongly desired that all these areas exist, and not this side, that side, but it's the Fort Worth and the culture and the value that Fort Worth bring to the country, because the eye is on Texas, and Dallas Fort Worth has an opportunity to be a hub for culture in the South and Southwest. That's just where everything is happening, just because of the rising cost of what happened in California, the rising cost of New York, what's going on in Milwaukee, what's going on in Detroit. A lot of people are navigating, especially those that want to understand what's going on in the area that they're moving to. Like you said, they're moving to the outskirts, but I want to know what's going on in the city. So I'm going to go to the bookstore, because traditionally, even when I used to go to the East Coast and I didn't know the East Coast, I would go to the bookstore where I thought hubs and information would occur. And so that's what we're seeing now in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, that we can have an event in our store and have everybody raise their hands, especially when it's a whole high-profile author. And these people are saying, I'm from Detroit, I'm from Chicago, I'm from California. My family was here, now I'm moving back. And I'm from, Alabama, I'm from Huntsville, Alabama, just all these different areas. And they're finding themselves again in a new age and a new time at a bookstore.
So we call those bookstores are like one of those third spaces, places where you come together. That's not your home, not your place of business. It is your place of business, but for those of us who frequent bookstores, it's a third place, and it's where people come together to do that kind of community thing, and where you see all of those people that have come here from other places. I mean, I think we're all from other places. I'm from California originally, and I moved here about 34 years ago. EJ's from someplace else, but you're from Texas.
Well,
right?
I've been here since I was 8, so
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a proud, kind of like you. I feel like I'm a proud Fort Worthian and Texan a little bit.
Yeah, I thought of Texas we pay. Yeah, we pretty much.
But we also all have an East Side connection, because East Side is where I first lived, off of East Chase, when we very first moved here. And my very first job was in Handley. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
it's very interesting to kind of come back and see what has happened in that area and the growth that has occurred. But so the online stuff that you're doing now, was that out of the pandemic? Were you doing Facebook Live and live streaming and that sort of thing? Or was that kind of a pivot that you did during the pandemic in order to kind of...
No, we had our radio.
Yeah, we started that. We were doing it. I think it just intensified with the pandemic. Yeah. We didn't... I'm glad we started it, so it wasn't nothing new. Like, we had to figure it out. But, yeah, we were doing it, but not at the level, that we're doing it now,
The industry asked us how because we had a lot of interviews at the time to our survivor, and they said, how were you able to pivot so fast, with just doing online stuff? Because we had been doing authors, because they were not coming into the Dallas-Fort Worth area, because publishing companies felt it was not a literary community, a reading community.
It was hard to get authors.
So it was very hard to get authors to come into this area. And so we looked into our own radio show.
Mm-hmm. And to be honest, hindsight 2020, I wish I would have invested in Zoom.
We actually did
Doesn't
a
everybody?
No, we actually did
We were doing Zoom. I'm like,
we
I
did
didn't think.
Zoom.
Yeah, we were doing Zoom and Skype and all that. I'm like, gosh, have we known
Yeah.
that this was coming?
I just didn't get that one.
In
So that's really unfortunate to hear that authors didn't come here because they don't see this market as a literary market. And I think that points a little bit to the literacy question, that it seems like that's talked about in the news constantly, whether the ISD is tackling literacy the way that it should, and maybe there's an opportunity for some collaboration there, because I know that literacy is important to y'all. And if you're trying to make sure that authors are willing to come here, how do we kind of grow a more positive lens on literacy in this area? Not just to attract authors, but to actually improve literacy.
We've been trying to work. Well, we've worked with Fort Worth ISD, and we would love to work more with Fort Worth ISD. But it's not an easy process. So when we bring authors in, like we brought a couple authors in before, trying to introduce them to the Fort Worth ISD schools, especially the low, reading schools that would really be inspired by these authors. let's just say the Doc Bookshop had to fund that. Okay. I mean, we have to really build a relationship more, I think, with the ISDs in bringing authors and literacy to the classrooms. There's definitely room for improvement.
Tell them about the little boy at the when we brought Black Boy into the school. But we did get support on that at the I can't remember which school it was.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. The authors of Black Boy, yeah, when they came, and she's talking about this little boy who was literally crying. He wanted the book, right? Because I did a little prize. I didn't have that many books, so we had like a little raffle, whatever. He didn't win. But the book was really for him. It was Little Black Boy, right?
Yeah.
And some little girls won, whatever. And he was just really tore up about it. He was just really crying about it. And I said, you know what? I had to go out to my car and find another book for this kid. But it just shows that, children are really wanting to engage with authors, and especially, with books that represent them. He was just excited about that book when he saw the cover. It was just representing him, and he just wanted to read it and he wanted to have it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go get it, But I would love to do more collaborations with Fort Worth ISD in that area. And
I think collaborations with other people that could help fund more books, more
I think
copies of the
Rocket
book
Ship
available.
Right.
I think they really helped.
Oh, no, yeah, Rocket Ship supported in a great way. Yeah, so, but yeah. We went to public schools.
Yeah. What
to support as well.
How you mentioned your relationship with authors and bringing authors. Was that always a part of the plan at the beginning? And what does that network look like now with all the relationships you guys have with authors?
Oh yeah, we definitely support. We love authors. I mean, we support local authors, and as well as national and best-selling, what we call celebrity authors as well. So our goal is to bring authors in conversation with the community. That's always been our goal, because they have such awesome stories. Like, there's so many great stories out there. And I get excited because when you talk to these authors and you actually go through their book, you're like, this is really a great story. Like, people need to read this book. And so there's some great stories out there. And so we always want to put community in conversation with authors. That's what the Trinity River Book Festival is all about.
Yes, and I know that's coming up. So tell us a little bit about that.
That's coming up on September 14th, Saturday, September 14th. Every year we do the Trinity River Book Festival, and it's one of our efforts to bring authors in conversation with community and readers. And we're going to have over 60 authors there, all genres, and it's going to be a beautiful event. Plus, we're going to have a kids entrepreneur marketplace. They're going to be like doing a little farmer market thing. So it's going to be a great experience. We're going to kick off with the run to read. That's what we call it. Run to read. 5K. And 1K for those who are not.
Yeah.
I'm 1K.
Yeah, I'm 1K kind of guy.
You 1K?
Yeah.
Me too. But, hey, 5K, 1K, walk, run.
Yeah.
We're going to kick off with that. It's going to be a beautiful.
And it's at the Trinity River Pavilion down off of 7th Street.
Mm-hmm.
At the Trinity Pavilion 1.
Mm-hmm. We're going to be there from 8 to 2.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And is there still an opportunity for authors to participate, or has that all been?
We are full.
Wow, nice.
We are at capacity. We really.
The reason
I'm
why
trying to figure out how we're going to really.
The reason why we say we're full, even though some book festivals have 70, 80 authors. Not saying everybody don't come from a literary lens, but we are very literary, and so we are wanting to really have people have the opportunity of sharing their stories. All the authors are on a panel and a part of the conversation. And so if you get 200 authors, it's kind of hard to do that. And so in terms of having a bunch of authors, we might do maybe 5 festivals a year. But the Trinity is 60 authors on different panels. And they're able to have a conversation. They're able to interact with the people. And sometimes that's overwhelming on the readers, too. If they have all these authors, 200 authors,
yeah,
the readers
really wanted like 50. We kind of went over because, again, it was hard to say no because they got some great stories. But our goal, again, is for people to really hear the stories.
Like in depth, not just surface.
Yeah, and having readers come out and connecting to authors. We have a very interesting panel called Archikosa. That was actually the original name of the Trinity by the Caddo Indians. So that is our indigenous panel, as well as paying tribute to Mexican Independence Day, because that falls September 16th. And so we use that opportunity to just hear those voices in the original name of the Trinity. So I just think that's just fascinating. We have we have Romance on the River. We have, and
we got our tribute to veterans.
Veterans, that kicks it off. And that's hearing from those experience, those expertise in a different narrative. And so
we got at least about 5 veterans that are going to share their stories. Some have written memoirs. Some have written children books. I mean, so they got different stories.
Mysteries,
mysteries.
Sci-fi. But it's that whole panel. And Fort Worth Veterans Affairs, I talked to Joaquin Castillo. I think if I massacre your name, Joaquin, I apologize.
And
he's the first person
that segment is really significant because at the park there's a veteran memorial.
Yeah. And he's actually the first person to fulfill that position for Fort Worth. And so it's a newly created Fort Worth Veterans Affairs position, and he's the one fulfilling that position. And he is so excited and so supportive of that panel that's going to kick off the Trinity River Book Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be a great time.
And what year are you guys on doing this?
This is our 3rd year.
Nice.
3rd year. And it's been growing. It's been amazing, actually.
Yeah.
And it's so supported.
Yeah.
We're trying to
we have a waiting list now.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I'm glad you guys at the pod, it sounds like,
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating day, so.
Yeah.
And is it free to the public?
Oh, of course.
And just like you said, 8 a.m.?
8 a.m. to 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the walk
We'll share
run,
the website on our...
The walk run, there's a fee for that. But
yeah.
The Arthur experience is free. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to get the T-shirt.
Yeah.
For the walk run, you got to pay $15 or something.
And Mike Gwynn is actually going to MC, and at the end of the festival, he's going to have poetry in the park. Mike Gwynn is a national poet. He does a lot of poetry events across Metroplex and beyond in different communities in Texas and in different states. And so he is going to host that day, and at the end of the day, he's going to have poetry in the park. And one of the poets is going to bring forward his rodeo poem. We had a competition at the bookstore, and so he won that competition. So he's going to present at the Trinity River Poetry in the Park and during Stock Show Rodeo. So hopefully we'll get the attention of Stock Show Rodeo and say, hey.
Yeah, Stock Show Rodeo's that week. So there's a lot going on.
It was 7:30 that night, and I'm like, man, Stock Show Rodeo, if you're listening, can I get some tickets to give away to people?
So yeah, it's going to be a great day. We got some wonderful children authors, like I said, fiction authors, nonfiction. We got this wonderful nature panel.
Yeah.
Oh, the nature panel. Oh,
yeah.
We're environmental too.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great day.
Now,
so mark your calendars.
Yeah, that sounds like an awesome day, and it's going to be hopefully the weather. That's right when the weather also gets start to look nice as well.
Right.
Even though you like it at 120, it sounds like. But you also guys are doing work with the National Juneteenth Museum. I know we've been to a couple of those sessions, and we see and support you guys. Kind of see there as well.
Yes.
Tell us about the relationship. You talked about Opal. You talked about you've always celebrated Juneteenth, but where Juneteenth is today in Fort Worth, what it means to Fort Worth, what it could mean with the National Juneteenth Museum. What do you guys kind of see with that now being the epicenter of the stories of Juneteenth as being right here where your bookshop is?
That's going to be huge, actually. When that museum opens, it's going to transform Fort Worth. It really is. And even the whole Juneteenth celebration. I mean, right now we're doing a great job. Of course, always can be better, but we're doing a great job celebrating Juneteenth because, like I said, so many people, so many organizations are hosting events celebrating Juneteenth. People are aware of it. You see different, in all cultures, actually, having, Juneteenth flags. You got, you have your national flag for Juneteenth, and you have your people's flag for Juneteenth. That's a conversation we'll have later. But I think when that museum, and to be honest, just to be a part, we have partnered with the National Juneteenth Museum. When they bring in their speakers, when they do their speaker series, and we sell the books there. They're wonderful partners. We love what they're doing. We want to be a part of. We don't know. We're in conversation. We may have a little something at the museum. We don't know yet.
Well, there's a lot of stuff.
We don't know.
For that,
that would be great.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be amazing. however we can support him that's
Yeah.
coming. And we
That
love him
speaker
so
series has been amazing. I think
Been amazing.
Yeah,
I think you
yeah.
missed one. I think
Yeah.
I've been to all of
Oh
them.
my gosh, it's been off the chain. They
Yeah.
have Huey Lewis Gates recently.
Yeah, he's
and
great.
Isabel Wilkerson and
Yeah.
Brian Stevenson.
Brian Stevenson, and I'm excited to see who's next.
Yeah, yeah.
So love it.
And I remember also, I would love to know the actual stat there around how many black books owned bookstores are in America. And then I remember there was like a stat out there, and it was really low. I think that when like Obama kind of posted it on Instagram, and it showed a list of all the national like bookstores, and it wasn't that many. And you guys were on there, and I was like, wow, that's actually, I believe, how I came to know you guys was from like a Barack Obama post about how there was no black bookstores. I'm like, wow, Fort Worth has one? Let me go. Like,
right. I'm telling you, celebrities have really helped us in their own way, as far as supporting local bookstores. So
The stats right now, I am working for the African American Book Club because he did a report in 2014, and it was on that report. It was only about 54 bookstores, and it has grown since then.
I think we got about 100 now.
because it's cool now, I guess, no? Or what? That you guys inspired people?
Well, they include pop-ups.
Gotcha.
It's not, you don't have to so much have a brick and mortar now. You can have a pop-up, and so pop-up is a thing now. Where people just pop up. That's considered a bookstore.
It's like the food truck for bookstores.
Right.
We used to have those bookmobiles for the libraries, so that's not like necessarily a totally new idea.
So they don't quite know where to put that, so they just put that under bookstores.
Got it.
Yeah, but when we did the areas, when he did the 50, it's probably about only 30 from when he did his list in 2014 with the brick and mortar bookstores. It was 54 then. Now it's 30 that are still in existence. Oh, wow. So, but in addition, we have more newer bookstores. But from the time he did it, there's some that closed.
Unfortunately, with COVID, a lot of bookstores didn't make it.
Yeah.
That was a hard time for just business in general.
It takes so much creativity, and I think at the time we opened, we were just wrapping our creativity around every concept that wasn't being done, like Women's History Month. We would wrap books around that, so it, where everybody I didn't know there is a Women's History Month, but we would do a lot of we would wrap books around everything and just shine a light on the things that we were doing as a nation every year. You would be surprised. Nobody at the time knew Women's History Month, Poetry Month. Oh, we was rapping everything that was going on in the nation. We would wrap books around it, and so it even shined a light on our mission, especially in the environment, the competitive environment, and the threats of a new bookseller in the environment that had, like you talked about today, the Amazon, all this. There were authors that say, "Oh, you guys won't even last a year," and these authors are not even around.
You outlasted them.
Yeah. You mentioned how you wrap yourself around moments. What is your guys' kind of foresight of what you're seeing doing with a relatively big November election coming around the corner for the country?
I want to take that question.
There's a female of color running for president. There's a lot happening here. I would be interested to know kind of what your guys' foresight seeing with that. How is Bookshop going to help get voting?
Donna take
here
the second
in Tarrant
part
County as well.
I'm gonna take the first part, and I'm gonna let Donna take the second part.
I'm just gonna start off with saying this. We let's just say that we've already have done efforts to support.
Yeah.
We want to support Kamala. I'm just going to put it out on the air, okay? And so we have had our talks already. We already got our books surrounding that, and so we're just trying to get people to the polls right now. That's major, and trying to help change mindsets. That's the challenge.
Yeah.
And we're right in the community. We hear it all.
Yeah.
Front
we
line.
hear everything. Okay.
Sounds like y'all should have a podcast.
So, we kind of do.
We do it
still call
weekly.
it podcast. This is more ours. More
YouTube.
community conversations
gotcha.
type things that we just put
Definitely
on
would
YouTube.
put
We're not fancy. Maybe
In a podcast studio.
yeah. So anyway, we just have talks in the bookstore. That's what we do. We have community meetings, and so and during our community meetings, we're learning that we got a lot of work to do. We got to really help change mindsets because we got people who are just surprisingly. There's a lot of people who are really scared about this election. Well, that's not surprisingly, right? Because I mean. It's just, you'd be surprised how many people are not even wanting to vote because there's so much stuff going on in the political world. They're running from politics, and we're trying to bring them back. So no, you can't run this time. We really need your vote on this one. But
Yeah.
And I'm gonna wrap my
politics has been just, I don't want to say disappointing for a lot of people, but it's been a struggle.
And before I want to kind of continue on to the part of it's interesting just hearing you guys talk and just thinking about how involved y'all been in the community. But then you also mentioned the rise of Juneteenth being a national holiday and Opal. But then Kamala Harris did come to Fort Worth, and it seems like Fort Worth is becoming or maybe has always been a political stomping ground. Yeah, and it seems like you guys are also been on the grassroots of being kind of there supporting that here in Fort Worth.
I'm gonna wrap around.
And when she came, Fort Worth, let's just say there were some people in Fort Worth that wasn't very nice.
Yes.
I'm gonna wrap myself around to his what he made about Barack Obama in that list, and then I'm gonna answer that question about Kamala. 2008, we opened up, and Barack Obama, the former president Barack Obama, was running for president. Even though I was following since he did the Iowa caucus, because I went to Iowa State University and I was involved in the Iowa caucus, so I knew when he got into the Illinois Senate and his first speech was in Iowa. I knew then when he did that he was going to run for president because I understood how Iowa caucus works and how strong that organization is. So in the community that promote the presidential election campaign. So 2008, I was like, okay. When he announced, a lot of people didn't embrace him. They're like, Barack Obama. That was like they were still caught up in the name. And I was like, I told my business partner, even Hillary was running. No, this man has it. He is it. And I don't care what nobody said. This man, I am, from the beginning, I am there. Where a lot of people was like, Hillary this, Hillary that. Okay, whatever. I was just captivated when he went to that, Iowa caucus. So every step of the way, we did his debate party. We did Michelle Obama's speeches every step of the way in 2008. And then I wrote a letter. I was kind of in my feelings when during the pandemic, fast forward, that, we were adamant about, Barack Obama getting people to the polls, the watch parties. And then when the pandemic came, it's like, they asked me to write a letter, but he didn't choose Dallas-Fort Worth area to make his presentation. And I was kind of like in my feelings there, I was kind of upset and heard that, again, we are dealing with the East Coast and the West Coast. And so that's kind of where he did his pop-up during the pandemic. I said, and that was my step in saying, okay, I need to really hone in and really massage my roots and my efforts in Texas and demanding that we be demanding that we be in these conversations. So when Kamala comes, I would really like her to, select us to be a part of the Dallas-Fort Worth community, to be a part of the conversation. And when they're making these tours to these coffee houses and these little bookstores, let Doc Bookshop be on the tour. Michelle Obama is doing that to this day. And I would hope that the Doc Bookshop will be somewhere on these different tours or these different paths, because they know how these communities, these intimate bookstores, these intimate spaces are so important to the election. That's how she
And you
picked her
mentioned
canon.
for Obama during the pandemic, his book was out. And
Yeah.
and you mentioned his book tour. He didn't stop in Dallas Fort Worth. Gotcha.
Yeah. So we're just hoping.
Yeah.
Again, we're a bookstore rooted 16 years.
Yeah. Did you get a response, by the way, with this letter?
Oh no, yeah, he's not coming.
Yeah.
We're sorry, Don.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not. He's not going to do it. And so, again, I was disappointed, but I can't.
Yeah.
I'm just a bookstore, the Doc Bookshop in the Fort Worth area. But
Yeah. But I feel like I love the yin and yang of both of you meeting you guys this here, because you can see you're the big dreamer who will write that letter to the president, but you got the foundation and the rock, it seems, and you guys are good yin and yang. Well, how's it working with family, running the bookshop, and where do you lean on each other for to make this run?
Well, I think I'm more of the, I don't want to say stable one. But yeah, I think you said, someone's in the clouds and then someone's on the ground. So I guess I'm boots on the ground, right? And she's in the clouds.
Yeah.
But
I would say I'm we clouds,
yeah, I think
we clouds that come to earth because we're the cloud that worked on Deion Sanders and brought him here, as well as the LL Cool J's and the Al Sharpton.
Those are the dreamers. I mean, you're actually reaching out for that. That's
It takes both.
Yeah.
It takes both. So I love that. Yeah.
But and I think that's what keep us going. I think I love her creative energy and her just her vision, and I just kind of do the day to day to keep stuff maintained and running.
Yeah. I love that.
So we make it work.
Yeah.
We can make it work. Yeah. And so I think she slightly mentioned some of the great people that have graced or came to the bookstore, or graced their presence at the bookstore. And Deion was one of those recently, and that impact that it had was amazing for us, Yeah. So it does help when they do come, and our next one is going to be Ricky Smiley on the 21st. So but we also want to promote our national authors who may not be celebrities, but we want to continue to promote them as well. So we have a Phyllis Dixon coming. She's a fiction author. She's not a national celebrity type person.
She's an excellent writer.
But she's a fiction author, been in the game for over 20 years.
Excellent writer.
So we want people to also learn about the local authors as well,
What makes, I would love to, that's actually, what do you guys look into an author? Like what makes, if there's someone out there wanting to write a book, and you've seen those people who, like Phyllis Dixon, what's your recommendation to people who want to share their stories?
The authors now, when we first started, there was authors, but now it's a plethora of authors. It's so many people writing, because so many people realize now they could tell their story, and they have great stories too. And it's not easy. I mean, we don't have to go to a publishing house anymore. I can actually go to this print press and tell my story.
Self-published.
It's really copy editing. If we
And a
could
lot of
tell
people
them,
are doing that.
make sure your books are edited. That's very important, because we don't want the author, we don't want a reader to come back, I really enjoyed this story. But it's so poorly written.
And that has happened, but I think, now when we deal with self-published authors who, may not think of editing and the value of it, we let them know, when they bring it. We just want to make sure your book has been edited, right?
And not by you.
Right.
When you edit yourself, you fix things
we
inside
want
your
an
brain,
outside
and it's
editor
not
to
necessarily
look at
on the
your
paper.
work.
Yeah.
That's
Because
important.
this impacts our brand and what we're trying to do, and the respect we're trying to bring into our city. And so it is so important, because, again, we're in Dallas, Fort Worth, and we're really fighting hard to make sure we're getting the representation that this city deserves, this area deserves. And I feel like it's not getting that from New York. It's really focused on New York, the East Coast, and promoting those stores. What happens when you say, you know what, politics and prose, I might not bring these high caliber authors to you this quarter. I'm going to do it at the Doc Bookshop in Texas. How do you think politics and prose is going to respond to that? Or not just pick on them or any other East Coast or West Coast bookstore. How do you think they're going to respond to that? Say, you know what, we're taking our authors, our high profile authors that bring in a lot of readers. We're going to do it in Dallas, Fort Worth. How do you think those bookstores are going to respond? They're going to be upset. And that's the upset I have today. Thank you.
Okay,
Well, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys telling your story and sharing it with us here on the 817 Pod. Again, we'll put all the links to the festival. Definitely recommend everyone who likes to run do those things. And also, there seems like an inclusive amount of things to discuss and talk on panels from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Oh, that
And
day
so-
is going to be so fulfilling.
So please show up to that and also stop by the bookshop.
please
Thank you
do.
guys so much for your time.
And thank you.
Thank you.